Welcome to Activity 3 of the Asteroids series in A2 Computing. Okay, in this lesson you will need to open up your Visual Studio's Asteroids game up until the last version that we completed, and then go to Moodle A2 Fortnight and scroll down to Lesson 3 and open the Activity 3 worksheet. In this lesson we're going to be looking at putting on the space shuttle onto the screen here. We're not going to worry about firing or collisions at this particular lesson, but we're going to use keyboard handlers to handle the different key presses. We're going to use the X and the Z key to move, rotate the space shuttle, rotate it right or left as per this diagram here. Position 1 facing up, position 2 be pointing that way, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. That's the rotation, and also the direction that it's facing will be stored in this variable here. So we're going to have a new, we're going to declare a new text box called a picture box, called pick spaceship, and a random number. We're going to use that later because we're going to use the S key on the keyboard to move the ship forward and stop the ship, so that's start and stop the movement of the ship. And we're also going to use the H key for a random hyper jump around the actual screen here, so it could leap around anywhere. Okay then, so first of all we need to paste in some global variables, and the comments here are very important to the understanding of the program, like they always are. So go to the main code, and underneath the global variables just paste in the global variables needed for the direction and the new picture box for the ship and the random number generator. Okay, remember that we created a image list, and if I open that up, look at the collection, you'll see corresponding to the different numbers, up is you can basically see the space shuttle rotates round in different directions down to 8. So 1 to 8 are the directions of the space shuttle. We've got a separate picture for each. Okay, so back to the worksheet then. So what we have to do is we have to create an event listener. Now this is unique because of the fact that it's got, before the actual form is created, while the window is being created, we have to put in what's called a keyboard event listener, and that handles all key presses and then reports them. And in this little bracket here, I'll paste it into Visual Studios because it won't have all these red lines underneath. Oops, open a new one there. Basically, it's going to be pasted into this subroutine, which has the same name as the form. So you've got here the form name, it's got the same name as the form, and what that does is before the actual form is created, it initializes, calls a subroutine which initializes all the components, and you can't see that. Basically it's where all the windows constructed. So we paste it in there, and that means that it's listening right from the start for key presses, and it's a key down press, so when the key is pressed down. Now this is red and underlined because we've invented this name. You could call it what you like, but I'm going to create a subroutine to handle that event. Okay then, so next we need to go back to the worksheet. Now we've done that, and we need to, just like we did before, set up the spaceship, because we've made a new picture box, and now we need to put the picture in it, change its size, its stretch mode, and place it on the screen and add the controls to the form, just like we have for the other components. And like always, that goes above the two braces at the bottom of your code. Okay, but we also, remember, on the form loader, we have to actually set that off. So when we first load the form, again, like we did before, remember, if you can't find the form loader, you double click on the blue bar of the form, and then we put it to the bottom here. So that's the sort of sequence of subroutines that are called, a bit like your main function in a console program. Okay, we've got it set up there, but now what we have to do is, remember we put the event handler, we have to create a subroutine with quite a complex switch statement in it, and it's quite long, so you have to go all the way down to the bottom. Don't forget the last braces, put that in, and we have to place that again at the bottom of the code above the two braces there. And I'll basically explain what that has to do. We're dealing with two key presses here. So the first key press we're dealing with is what will happen is when this when somebody presses a keyboard, this event is called. It will focus on the key presses and not on the form. It then uses a special command which gets the key argument that's here, which is the ASCII code for that particular key. And in this case, the case is key X. And what it does is it uses the direction. It simply changes the picture. So if case 1, the direction is 1, it changes the picture, the direction to 2, and loads that picture from the image list into the picture box, and so on and so on. And when it gets to the bottom, when it gets to full rotation 8, then it changes it back to 1. So you get a rotating shuttle. Of course, we have to rotate anti-clockwise as well. So we've got a very similar thing. From case 1, it goes backwards 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and basically rotates it back the other way. So that simply should be able to listen out for a keyboard and rotate it round. Okay then, so really that should work on its own. So if I just run that for a minute, just to show you what happens. So you could see a spaceship there, and if I press the X key, it goes around that way, and if I press the Z key, it goes around the other way. Notice it doesn't matter, nothing's hit. It doesn't deal with that. So that's simply all we can do. Now we're going to deal with other key presses. What we want to do is whichever direction the spaceship is facing in, when we press the S key, we want it to start moving very slowly, and then when we press the S key again, we want it to stop. So we're going to add that code next. So I'll just stop the program from running, go back to the worksheet. So because we're animating, it stands to reason that we need a timer. Remember, each bit of animation needs a separate timer. So we're going to copy that, we're going to copy the name of the timer, beware of the spaces, go to the form, and we're going to drop on a timer object onto the form. Okay, there we go, and it turns up there. Click on it and then paste in the name. Remember about the spaces before and afterwards. If it doesn't enter, it might mean you've got spaces before and after. And then what we have to do is double click on that spaceship timer, and then we take the code here, which is just a movement code. This is, if it's case 1, you're facing up, then basically as long as the bottom of the spaceship is not touching the top of the form, it will actually move the spaceship, it will move it. Otherwise it won't. Basically it will keep it where it is. So basically that's about direction and movement. So it'll start going up here. So -2, remember it starts from 0 at the top of the form to 550 at the bottom of the form. Okay, and this bit here, if it goes above the top of the form, I'll just show you that, what it will do is it will reposition it below the form. So basically that's the form height from 0 to 550. If the spaceship happens to go above there, it's travelling up there, goes to there, it will respawn itself underneath That's all it does, and there's every direction is catered for. So if it goes off that way, there's another statement which will bring it on that way. So there's a case for every direction that it goes in. So basically we will paste that, we'll copy it from there and paste it in. Make sure you get all the codes. Sometimes they go across 2 pages, and that will allow that to happen. But because there's no key press at the moment, it will never enact that, or the timer will never be enabled. So basically that timer is sitting there and it is false, it's switched off. So we've got to have some method of when we press the key switching it on again, and that's simply done by adding another case into the key down subroutine. And this one, if I just copy it, you've got to be very careful where you put this one. So the best thing to do is look for the key press, events subroutine. There it is, there's a key down. You've got to follow this line down here. So there's the first case, case key X, case key Z, and then you go to the bottom of that one and you will find the last breakpoint there. Go down and paste in the new key command down. All this simply does, if S is pressed and the timer is enabled, stop it, else start it. So that simply stops and starts the timer and allows the movement. So let's see it work then. So that should go in a certain direction whichever one we press. So we can rotate it with the X and Y key, the Z key, and when we press S it starts on its journey, and we can still go left and right there, and we press S again it stops it, and we can still rotate. So you can see then, no matter what direction we travel in, the switch case does the right movement. So study the code and you will find out how that actually works. And that's the timer code there, working out what direction it's on. So the last thing we're going to do is if a rock comes and is going to collide with you and there's nothing you can do, we're going to add another key now, which is going to be triggered by H, which will be a hyper jump. And that's a really simple piece of code. So basically all we're going to do now is go down, and we're going to go down and we're going to add a new key press, and it's straight away, there's no subroutine needed here. As soon as H is pressed, it will randomly pick out the X and Y coordinates. So we need the key press there, and just below the breakpoint there's the last one we added there. This is the key down subroutine. Paste that in there, and that is it finished. So sorry, we've copied the wrong one in there. So just delete that a minute. I must not have copied it properly. Okay, slip of the keyboard. So now we put that back in after the last break, and there it is. And all that does is set the left to a random number between 0 and the width and the right of the spaceship, and 0 and the height of the client. That's how that's the bottom of the form and the bottom of the spaceship. So it will spawn, well, all it means is when you press H it will randomly turn up within here. Okay, let's have a go at that then. So we can still move that way, we can move it, stop it, and we can hyper jump. Okay, so there's a few extension activities at the bottom there. It's saying when the space, add a little flame coming out to the images. That means you'll have to make another image list with little flames coming out the back for when this key is pressed, but that's up to you how you do that. So that